Hey, what's going on, everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Cheers to those of you that have your beers. I hope you're enjoying your work week so far. All right, let's talk about the parts cannon and how well that works out for mechanics. Notice I didn't say technicians. Technicians want to get more technical with it. They want to pull out the scan tools, pull out the DVOMs, things like that. Mechanics were more like, tell me the problem, I'll fix it. If you ask me to diagnose something, 7 out of 10 times I'm pretty accurate, down to the point where it ends up coming down to some kind of computer issue or electrical issue. Then I have some other problems with that, and it becomes a little bit more difficult for me to try to diagnose the problem. So what are some of the things that you can do to try to diagnose the issue without firing the parts cannon? Let's just take a look, see how I do it. All right, let's see. Engine's overheating, what could it be? Thermostat, baby. Cool. Next car I gotta diagnose. Engine won't start. Let's see. Ha! Battery. I knew it. All right, let's see. What else we got going on here? It's idling rough. That's the other vehicle I gotta diagnose. What's that? What's that gonna be? Injectors, baby. Needs new fuel injectors. I'm good with that. All right, cool. We got our 3 vehicles down. Let's go for vehicle number 4. No power or lack of power. What could be causing that? Mass and or map air sensor. So let's just go ahead and replace both of those. Hell yeah. All right, one more. Let's see. Facing the worst case scenario. Not sure what this 5th car is going to be. Catalytic converter. Easy enough. Send it to the exhaust shop. Booyah! Done. I'm just kidding, man. I don't really use those to diagnose car problems. But hey, if it was that simple, wouldn't that make life so much easier? No, man, look, I use a series of testers just like everybody else. I got my compression tester, my leak down tester. I've got a DVOM that I use from time to time, test light. I have a fuel pressure tester, Noid light set. What else? Coolant pressure tester, oil pressure testers, trans pressure testers. We got all kinds of testers. I have most of those that I just kind of rattled off. Most of us have all that stuff. I've got a really nice scan tool that I'm able to pull codes on. And also, always want to check service information, look for technical service bulletins, known or similar repairs for that year, make, model. Like if you're on Identifix or Direct Hit, you can go on there and see what the most common repair practices are. And some of the mechanics or technicians will put their notes in and tell you what they found at what prong. So it kind of alleviates a lot of the things that you have to try to do to research. So if you're not exactly sure where to start, that might not be a bad place for you to start. They'll tell you what color wire to what pin connector that they went to, what the connector looks like, how to test it, what kind of voltage you're looking for, or what kind of resistance you're checking for. So it makes it relatively simplistic to diagnose most small issues. When you get down to like computer issues, it becomes a little bit more of a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie, especially when it comes to like software updates, because most of the more modern vehicles have to be updated every so often, and these updates can really just make the vehicle do all kinds of weird and quirky shit, especially with like the Chrysler product line. When I was working at the dealership, I mean, this customer would come in, it had rough idle, it would stall out, the transmission wasn't shifting right, all kinds of stuff. And that's because it needed a PCM and a TCM flash update. And without doing those flash updates, the problems were going to be there. So we had to start somewhere. Once we did the flash updates and took it for a very lengthy road test, the problem was gone. So kind of interesting, because as you go through and you look at the flash update, you read through the flash update, because they got a chart of what codes it covers, so it'll tell you what codes that could be involved in it, and what are some of the other subcategories or symptoms that the vehicle could possibly have as a result. So that's going to help you out tremendously, especially if it's involved with a flash update. Now, There's not a lot of information out there as far as the independent shop world is concerned, as far as flash updating and what kind of codes it covers. There's some information, just not a lot, not nearly as in-depth as, say, a dealership. So if you're working for a dealership, it's going to give you the entire rundown of what codes, the symptoms, and then a flow chart on how you can check it if there's still a problem thereafter, and how many vehicles it was that are affected as a result of this specific flash update or software update. In the independent world, it's more like, hey, yeah, there is a flash update available for your vehicle, and these are the ones that we can actually flash, and these are the ones that we can't. So, you know, it'll actually, on Identifix, it might even give you some kind of clue as to what codes could potentially lead you to a software update. But most of the time, you're just seeing, hey, there's a flash update, could be a potential cause outside of this, this, and this. So they'll give you the 3 other things that it could be, plus letting you know their flash update could be the cause. So you always want to try to bring the vehicle up to the latest software prior to continuing diagnosis, because you could just spend hours and hours and hours chasing down a ghost and it's not there. And it's not there because it was in the software all along. So I would strongly recommend having the software updated as often as need be, you know what I mean? And if you go to a dealer to have your car fixed, then have them check it every so often, or call down or take your vehicle down for the oil change and say, hey, can you check for any, you know, recent software changes or anything like that in the computers or whatever, and they should be able to tell you if there's one available or not. So just kind of food for thought. Not something that independent shops particularly look for unless there's a problem. So, I mean, just typing into the computer any new software updates, it's not going to let us know. Whereas if you're at a dealership, you throw their, like for Chrysler, it was a Y-Tech or a Y-Pod or VCI pod or the DBR3. You could plug those into the DLC connector, and it would let you know if there was a software update available for it. It would show you a little flash symbol or whatever, you know, let you know, hey, it's out of date, got to go ahead and flash it. Not like that with the independent shop world, unless there is a diagnostic trouble code that we can utilize to go into like Identifix or AllData and look for known TSBs or potential issues with that particular code, and have them list down potential causes, and one of those causes being a software update. You're really not going to know. Should you fire the parts cannon at it? Look, I mean, a lot of the things that you're going to be testing mechanically wise, like as far as pressure tests and you know, continuity tests and all this other stuff with, you know, DVOM, scan tool, and it's pretty simplistic, man. I mean, if you put a smoke machine on the evap system, you see where it's leaking, you found the leak, and that's the potential cause of a lean condition or something like that, you know. If it's running rich or whatever, maybe you got an injector that's leaking a little bit too much, or it's not putting out a sufficient amount. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing some of the things we've ran into. Well, there's a specific tester that you can use for that too. You hook it up to the injector, and you can actually pulse the injector and watch the needle come down on the fuel pressure, and if they're all equal, then chances are everything's okay there. But if one is like drops way down or doesn't move at all, you might have, you know, an issue with excessive fuel consumption or a clogged injector. So some of those kind of things is what you would look for with that. So pressure testers are great, and if it comes to like a coolant pressure test or something like that, it's going to tell you right out the gate. You know, you pressure test it, coolant starts falling. Usually you could see right where it is. When it comes to other pressure tests like fuel pressure, if the needle's not moving, chances are it's pretty good. If it's not at the right pressure, there might be an issue. You might want to check, you know, certain things like the fuel filter, etc. If it drops right off as fast can be, you might be looking at a fuel pump. So there's a lot of little simple tests that you can do with mechanical testers that you'd be like, yeah, it needs a fuel pump. You know, that's without sitting there and going through all the hoops. Pressure speaking, needs a fuel pump. You know what I mean? So there's certain things. And then other things is just like known repairs. I can't tell how many times when a vehicle came in, especially when it was a Jeep Wrangler, people call it the parts cannon. It's not a parts cannon. It's just knowing your shit. When a Jeep Wrangler came in with a 3.6 and it had a multiple misfire code and 2 4-cylinder was acting up or whatever, we already knew what the problem was. It needed a left cylinder head. So what do? You start asking for parts and trying to make sure you can get them there, because there's so many of them that are being you know, fixed and replaced and everything, that some of those heads are on back order and it's hard to get them on a timely manner. So it needs a cylinder head. Then you go back out and you put in all your notes and you finish testing and doing whatever. But at the end of the day, you already know what it is. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. You know, like Dodge Rams, when they came in, exhaust leak. You already knew it was going to be either from passenger or driver's side, and chances are the manifold was cracked and the 2 bolts towards the back of the manifold were probably broke. And you were going to have to extract the stud and go through all that stuff. So shit happens. It's just known repairs. You know, it's a common thing that happens all the time. So it's just one of those things, man. And it's the same thing with like the Dodge Chargers and Challengers. They would come in all the time because there would be a recall. There was a recall for an alternator issue, and you'd have some that would come in because they didn't know about the issue because the car wouldn't charge and it wouldn't stay running and whatever, and knew it was an alternator, you know. But you know, you do through your little test or whatever, you start it up, you know, disconnect your jump box, it dies, okay, you can pretty much assume that's what it is. Or you know, you hook up your DVOM and see that there is no charging voltage, you know that that was what the problem was. So lots of known repairs that come through, and they come through so frequently you just know what they are, you know what I mean? So call it a parts cannon, call it whatever you want. Should you use it? No. Look, try to be as thorough as you possibly can. Try to diagnose it the best of your abilities. If you don't know how to proceed from a certain point because you've reached that stopping point, get some help. Ask the guy next to you, ask your boss, ask your foreman, you know, hey, this is where I got to in the flow chart. I'm not exactly sure what it means. Can you kind of help me out with the rest? Let them do all the heavy work. Not the heavy line work, but the heavy work as far as digging into it electrically speaking. Because let's face it, I'm not an electrical guru, guys. I don't know that much about it. I can get my way around a DVMM, I can get my way around a test light and a scan tool. But as far as looking at trim values and scope patterns and all that stuff, that's just not what I do. That's all I got for this video, guys. Look, my question to you would be, do you fire the parts cannon? Do you not fire the parts cannon? I know that some of you guys out there that are DIYers and weekend warriors, you assume that it's got to be a certain thing because you don't have these testers and whatnot. I've been there. I've done it myself. And, you know, I've been right 7 out of 10 times. So I say I got a 70% chance when I'm diagnosing problems on my own that I'm correct. It wasn't always that way. When I was younger, I was like, oh yeah, I don't know, I'll just change this part, I'll change that part and whatever. And I kind of muscled my way through it and eventually, you know, got the thing running and whatever. Nowadays, I pretty much know what it is that I'm looking at. Whether I have a tester or not, it's beside the point. I know what I'm looking for and how to test it, especially if you don't have the tools. That's all I got for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Deuces.